Hi, my name is Terry. I'm the founder of Shine.Online and your host for today's interview. Today, I am so honored to have Karen Jones of Rebels Compass with us. She started her healing journey after a car accident that changed the direction of her life. After many years of healing her own body and finding modalities that would create change for her, she became a Reiki Master and deep dived into why she showed up the way she did and what needed to change. What programming did she have, and how she could rewrite her inner story. After becoming a Reiki Master, Karen went on to discover sound therapy and its healing benefits, as well as meditation, stored emotions in the body, and our limiting beliefs about ourselves. I am so honored to have Karen with us today. Welcome, Karen.
Hello, Terry. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, I am floored. A car accident sounds quite traumatic. Can you tell us more about what happened and how you got into this healing journey?
Absolutely. So it's around about 34 years ago now. And I was on the way to a client and got T-boned at a junction that my little mini city that I was in got very squashed, and I was hit by a much larger car. And the effects of the car accident left me with a prolapsed disc in my neck, a condition called Horner's syndrome, where part of my face collapsed. I had issues with my spine. And the ongoing symptoms and effects of that was I would walk somewhere and lose the direction of my feet, fall over. I was in constant pain. And it became my life at the time. I was a hairdresser, and my life changed overnight. I had 3 young children. I could no longer provide an income. So that really changed the direction of my life. And at first, it was just quick appointments with physiotherapy. But after 2 and 3 years of the symptoms still continuing, they started looking at deeper issues that I had. So they found that I had no feeling in my back, I had trapped nerves and various other things. So by this time, I was walking with 2 walking sticks because I was afraid to fall over if I lost direction of my feet. And through the process of going to see different therapists, I went to see a specialist who told me that by the time I was 50, I was going to be in a wheelchair, and this was the way my life was going to be. And I came out of there angry, but I came out of there more angry at his prognosis and more determined that that wasn't going to happen to me. So eventually he sent me to see a neurologist that ended up doing surgery on my neck to fuse the discs in my neck where I had the prolapse discs and various things like that. And I was in constant pain. I was on morphine medication, and I knew I needed to get off it. It was destroying my digestive system. I didn't like medication at all. And through the church I was going to at the time, I was a member of a spiritualist church, and I got introduced to Reiki. And that's where I started managing the pain with energy work and understanding what energy work was about. So I weaned myself off the morphine medication, and Reiki became my medication, if you like, my discovery in that there was an energy about me and an energy out there that could actually rebalance and help manage pain. So over the years, I became a Reiki Master. And at the time, I lived in the UK. So when I was 40 years old, so by now 10 years has passed from this accident because I was 30 years old. I moved to Canada when I was 40. And when I very first moved to Canada, when I was 40 years old, I still walked with a cane because I had a limp that was permanent, that ended up being from the accident and from bone grafting and various other things that had to take place when I had the accident. And I was introduced to a lady who did a practice called cranial sacral, and that's massage therapy, but they also manipulate the roof of your mouth and they listen to the movement of the body. And while she had her hand in my mouth manipulating the roof of my mouth, I had a vision because I didn't even know what past life experiences were there. And I had this vision of me running through a battlefield and a spear coming across the battlefield and entering my stomach and going through my right hip. And I explained to her what I was feeling. I said, I think I'm dying. I think I'm dying. I've got this weird vision in my head. So she guided me through this vision, asked me to visualize pulling the spear out from my stomach and from my hip. And when I did, I went into a deep state of relaxation. And the next thing I remember, she was waking me up and telling me, okay, we're done. The massage is done. Are you ready to go? And when I left, I thought it was a very weird experience. I'd never experienced anything like that before. I came home and told my husband at the time what had happened to me and never thought any more about it. The following morning, I got up to get dressed, ready to go to work. And he said, come back here. And I went, what for? I'm getting ready to go to work. I don't have time for this. And he said, no, walk back across the bedroom floor. And as I walked back across the bedroom floor, he said, have you noticed anything different? And I said, no, what? He said, your limp's gone. And overnight, my limp had completely disappeared.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I know. And that sent the trajectory off for me in so many different ways. It was exciting. I couldn't believe it. I called the lady that did the cranial sacral on me. And I said, okay, what just happened? Because now I don't have this limp anymore. Why did it go? And she said, that was a past life experience. And I went, okay, what's that? How do I access this? So I started researching a little bit more about past lives. And my next step in my journey from that, I'd gone out with my sister-in-law, and there was close to where we live, they have these huge, great big garage sales. And I happened to hear this sound, and I followed the sound, and I ended up meeting a gentleman that did sound therapy. And I could feel the resonance through my body as he was using these tuning forks on me. And that all lined up with the experience of the past life. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm being introduced to sound therapy. So it's like, okay, there has to be something in this. There has to be more. I need to know more. So as I started diving deeper and deeper into it, I understood and started to learn about cellular memory and how from past lives we can hold cellular memory in our body. And I also started to research more about sound therapy and how each of our organs have its own frequency in sound. And it's a little bit like going to listen to an orchestra and all of a sudden the violin section starts playing out a sound. Eventually it entrains the entire orchestra to play off tune. That's what's happening in our body all of the time. So I then started researching where to go and train for sound therapy. And I ended up going to the States to learn how to do sound therapy. So I became a practitioner of it and also a teacher of sound therapy. And for many years, I taught people how to use tuning forks and how to access frequency and sound to be able to generate a resonance in the body that would help the body heal and to release pain and to access memory in the body. So that was kind of my journey on how I healed myself and started to recognize emotions I was holding into my body. I started asking myself questions like, why do I show up like this? Why do things happen to me where major life experiences happen? That wasn't the first experience I'd had, and it wasn't going to be the last. But it was each time it was taking me into this deeper journey inside of myself to say, why is this keep happening? Which then in my journey brought me to uncovering about emotional trauma that we hold in the body and our subconscious, and how we can access all of that to help heal our body and to create the life that we actually want and the life we want to live.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, there seems to be two components here. One is the past life memory that is
Mhm.
stored, I guess, in our psyche. And then you're talking about cellular memory. Is that more ancestral, or is that from your childhood? What's the difference between past life memory and cellular memory?
That's a great question. So our past life memory is experiences that we've had, traumas that we have had in past lives that on a spiritual level, soul level, we bring in to be able to learn, to move past, move beyond these experiences. Our cellular memory can be generational memory, so generational patterns that we have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, to the point where we say now, oh, it's just done that way. You have no clue why it was done that way or why you say what you say. It's just programmed in. So that's that kind of explanation for those experiences we have. And what was your last question? Sorry.
It was just understanding the difference between ancestral or cellular memory and past life, if there was a difference or if it's addressed the same way to clear it.
It's addressed the same way to clear it, because it's all held in within us. It's the story that and how we show up in the world. And a great example of that I had from a lady when I was actually taking the coaching program was she told a story of her mother always used to cut the ends off a ham to put in the oven. And she asked, why is it done that way? And she said, well, because it makes the ham taste better. And eventually she asked her grandmother why she cut the ends off the ham, because her mom couldn't tell her. And she said, oh, so it fits in the pan. So we hold these stories, and that's just a simple one of a ham, but we hold these stories within us that have such a massive impact on our body. They have a massive impact on how we show up in the world, the way we speak to ourselves, how we project ourselves in the world, our belief systems, whether we have limiting beliefs of ourselves, whether we feel unworthy, that all goes into this programming from past life memory, generational memory, and our own story in this lifetime.
Wow. It seems like the longer human civilization has been around, the more we must be really messed up. And probably no wonder why there's just so much trauma and cases of disability, permanent disabilities, but also, food allergies and all of this. There's so much muck, it seems, that would be accumulated in our cells. So, how do you help clear that?
So part of my experience, first of all, through the coaching that I do, I will listen to your story. So what is your story? What is it you're struggling with? The same as I had to look at myself. What was my story? What was I struggling with? And then be able to shed light on why I had that belief. For me, my journey, for me personally, is very different from the journey I take people on now, because I have evolved a way of be able to ask those questions and also create other opportunities to deep dive on those experiences. But to answer the question for you, one of the questions that I asked myself was, why do I keep attracting in illness? Why do I keep attracting in these events that are life-changing events? What is it within my belief system that makes that happen? And as I started to look at my childhood, as I started to look at the way I was raised, I was actually raised by great parents, but my mom was emotionally unavailable. She had her own deep, dark depression that unfortunately she never actually was able to break or shift. But me growing up as a child, my whole existence evolved around, when mom's happy, the household's happy. Dad was very, very attentive to mom. Dad did everything for mom, cook meals, help clean up. Mom would wake up some mornings where she was so depressed, she would just sit and cry. That, in a very small child, me, set up a belief that the only way you are loved and get cared for is to be sick.
Oh, wow. That's huge. Oh, wow. That's huge. That's huge.
Huge. Huge. When that hit me, that was like, oh, I didn't even know that was in there. That was, holy smokes, that deep.
Yeah.
So then you have to start rewriting your subconscious program. So your subconscious program is part of our human existence. The second we're born, that part, in fact, before we're born, but I'm going to say from the second we're born, just for ease of the description. The second we're born, this part of us kicks in for survival. So we cry when we want to be fed, we cry when we want to be changed, we cry when we want attention. And our parents generally will pick us up, cuddle us, feed us, change us, that kind of thing. And then once we become a little bit older, like 18 months, 2 years old, 3 years old, then we start to learn that love is conditional. I don't just get fed and cared for. Love is conditional. Love is conditional on whether I'm a good girl or a good boy. Love is conditional on whether I do as I'm told or whether I do this. And we also observe our environment. So we soak our environment up like a sponge. So for me, in that, I'm soaking up my environment, seeing my mom's not well, being told constantly, Mummy's not very well today, Mummy's not very well today, and seeing Dad go and do everything for mom. As a child that is just soaking up her environment and wants to feel safe in her environment, realizes, okay, so it's normal that you have to be sick to get loved. You have to be sick to get taken care of. And our environments create all of these different stories and programs. I start now calling them sub-programs and sub-personalities because there's so many that are deep and deep layered. And the more you start to bring them to the surface, you can actually look at that and go, wait a minute, is that really true? So then you start redirecting your subconscious program. So for me, I had to start visualizing myself healthy. I started creating meditations for myself and journey meditations for myself, where I would give that experience of you have to be sick to be loved. I gave it a color. And when I would scan my body, I would look for that color in my body and start pulling it out and retraining my subconscious program that I am healthy, I am well, I am strong, I love myself. And that started to shift that program within me.
Wow. I'm conscious of what I'm feeling in my body as I'm listening to you speak. And I am just getting so many emotions, and I've had moments welling up in tears. So I really resonate with what you're sharing. It seems very powerful. So what do you do now to help people clear this?
So, like, as I mentioned, I listen to their story. So I connect in person or via Zoom. I have clients around the world, and I would listen to everything that they have to say. Now, one of the things that I'm really good at is hearing what's not being said also. I feel energy. I'm an empath. I feel that. And over the years of me fine-tuning this, I get a signal that goes through my body. So once I've listened to their story, I create questions for them, and I'll send them questions for them to answer. Because this is not me healing them. They're healing themselves. I'm just the tour guide. So I send them the 10 questions. When they send back the answers to me, I will read through the answers, and I will send them 10 more questions based on the answers they have sent me. And this will go back and forth until our next appointment. When we get together the next time, whether it's in person or whether it's online, I ask them to share with me what their experience of their story is now. What have you observed? Where do you feel the hit in your body? Do you feel it emotionally? Do you feel it in physical pain? Where does that show up in your body? Now, if they've got something that's showing up in their body, I also custom create meditations for them to do exactly that. So if everyone is tailored to the person that I'm working with, so then they can listen to that meditation on a daily basis, they start to rewrite their unconscious program. I also work with vocabulary. How are you speaking to yourself? Because vocabulary is key. And we use negative words to ourselves and externally all the time. So I will also send them daily reminders, daily texts, and say, okay, how are you speaking to yourself today? What did you notice today? What came up for you today? So that they've got that constant touch in, this isn't just a once a week appointment. This is a daily touch every day for accountability for how am I changing my belief system.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful because what I'm loving about what you're saying is that it seems much deeper than traditional cognitive behavioral therapy or counseling or psychotherapy. It seems like it's about rewiring and reprogramming beliefs and energetic patterns. It seems like it's going beyond the thinking mind and much deeper in your body. Is that right?
100% yes. 100% yes.
Wow.
It is. I
I,
absolutely
I just
love
get
what I
tingles
do.
listening to you right now because it just seems like what I'm hearing, and I come from a background of counseling, actually, of doing counseling. And so what I'm loving about this is that it's just taking everything to the next stage. And it feels like you don't have to spend 20 years in psychotherapy or analysis. You can do this much more quickly and see benefits. Can you tell us about a typical story with the clients you've worked, how things have worked with your clients?
So a typical story would be a woman coming to me that isn't seen in a relationship. She believes she's not lovable. She believes that she isn't seen in a relationship. She is struggling in a relationship. My story, my question would be, first of all, how do you believe that you are showing up in your relationship? I get how she believes she's showing up and what her belief is about that. Then I would go into her story as a child. How was her interaction with her parents? What is her biggest belief about herself? And the biggest belief, hands down, has always been, I don't feel I'm loved the way I want to be loved. So my next question would be, how do you want to be loved? So I get an answer from them, how they want to be loved. And my next question after that is, do you love yourself that way?
Wow.
And very often I'll get, no, I don't know what that looks like. So I offer an observation that life is a mirror and we teach people how to love us. And if we connect in relationships with a belief inside of us that we aren't good enough, we are a chameleon, we shape shift in relationships because we're so afraid for somebody to leave us and abandon us and make us feel worthless and alone, we tolerate behavior that eventually becomes the irritation and the breakdown in a relationship. So when we start to shine that mirror and that light inside, we start to look at the patterns that match up. So again, I'll use an example from me. So my relationship with my mum, she was emotionally unavailable. I married somebody that was emotionally unavailable. And the reason subconsciously I did that, it was because I already knew how to handle it. I already knew how to show up in a relationship like that. I gave more, tried every word, tried every sentence, trying to make somebody see me that didn't see me. The same as the relationship with my mum. But part of the process of that was I didn't see myself. I didn't view myself in the way that I wanted to be loved. I didn't love myself in that way. I had all the limiting belief stories. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not this. Every limiting belief story I had. And one by one, I had to start uncovering them and asking myself, is that really true? And the answer was no, it wasn't. So if it wasn't true, what was true?
Wow.
And slowly but surely, I started to rebuild that side of myself. And I know that every single human being is capable of it because I've done it. And I know that everybody out there has a limiting belief story that they hold themselves back because they're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being seen. They're afraid of falling flat on their face. They're afraid of criticism. And this is all part of that unconscious programming. So one of the other things that I offer clients to be able to separate that in their mind. I mean, I'm sure you've had it yourself. I know I have, where you've got that conversation going on in your head, and you've got that back and forth between, you're stupid, you can't do this. What the hell do you want to show up and do that for? People are going to laugh. People are going to do this, to a little tiny voice that says, "Go on, you can do it. You can do it." So one of the things that I ask my clients to do is to name their inner critic. Because the second you name your inner critic, you separate yourself from it. And when you separate yourself from that nagging voice that tells you you're useless, you can't do it, why are you even bothering? Once you recognize that voice is going, my inner critic's name, by the way, is Kevin. So when that name comes up, when that inner critic voice ever came up, I would go, Kevin, stop. That's not true. This is my new belief, and this is the direction I'm going.
Wow.
And you start to rewrite and rewire your subconscious programming, your neural pathways into a brand new way of being.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. And I'm just floored by how much you can offer, and how much you can help. Like, a lot of this is so new to me, and I'm sure will be so new to many viewers. Can you tell us about a success story? Like, how has this transformed the life of a client of yours?
Absolutely. So I have a client that was suffering greatly from depression. It was situational depression. There was something that happened to her. She was having a really hard time, and that negative, critical voice came in. It's all your fault. This is the reason why you feel this way. And as we started working and sending these questions back and forth, it turned out that she had somebody very, very critical in her childhood. Somebody that was constantly picking at her, nitpicking. Well, you could have done that better. You could have done that better. So we started to work on that. Her inner critic name, I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this, was Ermintrude.
I've never heard that name.
No, Ermintrude. Ermintrude to her was a grumpy old lady that had nothing nice to say to anybody. So we got this visual picture. I asked her to describe Ermintrude, what she was like, and how she was going to redirect Ermintrude when she said that she was having this problem and it was all her fault. So it took us probably about 6 or 7 weeks of me doing the daily text, the questions back and forth, where all of a sudden one morning the penny just dropped. And she said, I didn't hear Ermintrude yesterday in the same way. I actually heard my own voice telling me I can do this, I can do this. Now, this lady had to come out of work. She couldn't work because she was crying all the time. She was in an emotional state. And by the time she was done, not only did she go back to work, but she actually got a promotion in her chosen career that she was doing, because she'd actually created a level of confidence within herself that wasn't there before.
Wow.
She created a level of self-esteem that wasn't there before. And she was able to show up for herself in a way that she'd never shown up for herself before. And we still have occasionally texts back and forwards, or she'll send me an update and that kind of thing. But she's doing really, really well. She shifted an old pattern. She shifted a conscious belief that she had, or a subconscious belief she had, and changed her story, and continues to do so. Now, one of the things that if she'd gotten into a negative thought pattern, she would generally text me, because if she was having a bad day, she would generally text and say, okay, Ermintrude's taken over. I'm on a catastrophic train of thinking. I'm 25 years into the future and it's always going to be like this. And I would message her back and say, okay, what are you choosing? What are you choosing? Where are you giving your power? Where do you want to place your power? Do you want to place it into problem solving? That's going to be one problem after another, after another, after another, that Ermintrude will create? Or do you want to choose to take a step forward into who you're becoming? And then she'd text me back, no, I'm going to take a step forward into who I'm becoming. Okay, so what does that look like?
Wow. And it seems like she was able to completely transform her life after this.
The depression has completely gone. She is back in work. She got the promotion that she was looking for, and she's doing incredibly well. Like I said, occasionally I'll get a text message off her and say, oh, Ermintrude showed up today, but I shut her down real fast, or something like that. So it becomes that I keep in touch with a lot of people afterwards, because it's just so, for me, it's so phenomenal to see people step into that part of themselves that they've hidden for so long, and they had no clue how to get there.
Wow, that's amazing. What I'm loving about what I'm hearing about how you work is that it's not just one session and you're off on your own. It seems like in order to make change, you're helping catch catch themselves every time that they may go back to the old way. You're there as a coach, as a guide, as as the little good angel on the side of your shoulder to help people course correct so that they never go back to those old patterns. And you're really anchoring the new healed energy into your life that you need to. You're there to escort them to where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the images I give my clients is everybody remembers as a kid playing with elastic bands. You stretch them and fire them. And I give them that image. Okay, so the subconscious is holding on to one part of the elastic band, and your future self is holding on to the other. And the more we stretch the future self, we start to become uncomfortable. It starts to build tension. We start to feel that, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I want to. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier just to go back. And I tell them one end or the other has to release. So the more you stretch that elastic band, you either let go of the steps that you've made forward and revert back to the way you were, where you're going to become more uncomfortable because you can't stay here, or you're going to continue to pull the elastic band, and eventually that old part of you has to let go and die. So once you let go, that propels you forward, and that part of you, that part of your identity, doesn't exist anymore. It has to die.
Wow, that is so profound. Wow. You've given us so much to think about and analyze, and I know that it takes me back to my childhood and looking at what patterns I might be carrying into now, and you know it's part of my story that I'm dealing with a brain injury. So I think I will be definitely contacting you to look at how I can let go of that. Would you have any tips or tricks that we can do, in the meantime on our own to help us move forward? Just something simple that could help us.
I do actually, and it's called ABCs. So super easy to remember. So the first one is the second you're in something and you recognize that it's either creating anxiety or it's triggered an emotion. Very often we'll get angry at something because they trigger something inside of us because it's already in there. So the first one, A, is what was the activating event? What was it that triggered you? Second is B, what is the belief within what was triggered? The third is C, what is the consequence that is being created because of the activation and the trigger? What's the consequence of that event? And then D, how can you challenge? What can you dispute within what's taking place right now? How can you challenge it? And then E is what is the effective route? What is the next, how can you move through that? So the first one is noticing what triggered you. The second is what is the belief that you hold within that? And what's the consequence of what is happening right now? What is the behavior? What is the consequence? And how can you dispute that? And what is your next step forward?
Wow, that is great. That is something that I think if we're stuck in life, we have to start looking at what else is going on. Sometimes
Mhm.
we can feel like we're working so hard and genuinely giving it our best to get out of circumstances and to move forward. And it's may feel like, I know I sometimes feel like that, like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm working so
Mhm.
hard and so hard to change my life situation, change my life circumstance, change my health, and and it feels like I'm not gaining a lot of traction. And you've really opened my eyes to saying, well, maybe I need to look at what are the subconscious patterns that are maybe kind of sabotaging my
Mhm.
growth, right? It's nobody else's fault, but it's just this programming. And from a pure computer programming point of view, if there's a bug in the system, no matter how many times you try to fix it, you need to change the outcome. If you don't address the bug, you'll never get the outcome you want. So this was
Totally.
so revealing to me about change, about life
Mhm.
change. Yeah, that was wonderful. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave viewers with today?
My final thought would be, if you know deep inside of you that there is somebody inside that is struggling to set free, invest in yourself. It is the greatest investment you will ever make in your life, and it is the one that will show you the most reward.
Wow, like you just got me with that. I have to say that I've just been feeling what you're talking about, and it's really personally touched me quite a bit. If you, as viewers, have been touched by anything Karen has said, please write how she's reached you in the stories in the comments below. Please talk about any issues that she's brought up within you in the comments. And if you'd like to reach out to Karen, we will put a link to her page on Shine.Online so that you can find out more about Karen, her services, how much she charges, and how to contact her through the link in the comments below. Karen, I can't begin to thank you for everything you've shared today, the tips and tricks, but also the explanation of this whole other world that many of us didn't know exist. has been kind of life changing for me today. So I'm so grateful for you to share that with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I am very, very grateful to you and to anybody listening to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll see you all on Shine.Online, and keep checking out this channel for more interviews with amazing practitioners like Karen from Rebels Compass. Thank you and have a fantastic day.